more expensive nail polish actually worth it? Welcome to the channel, it's Kay, and today's excuse for a nail polish video is pricing. It's all about pricing, nail polish pricing, and the increases, right, that we have seen coming from some of our favorite brands. So I actually found an online store called Shop Miss A, and Shop Miss A sells a bunch of beauty products and they're all really affordable. I'm talking like I found $1 nail polish on there, which I know you can probably also find at some dollar store or something like that, but I didn't want to go out, so I just purchased some polishes from that store that are actually really similar to polishes that I already owned. The difference is I paid like $15 for some of these polishes. So I want to compare them, put my experience to the test. Is more expensive nail polish actually worth it? Am I getting a better experience? And if so, what is going on? You know, what specifically is better? What is not better? That is what I am trying to find out today. So with that said, let's get into the sesh and compare these affordable nail polishes to the not so affordable nail polishes. So we're starting with this smaller size glitter category. Pick Me Up Purple by China Glaze cost me $8 and is on the left versus the $1.33 option Cosmic Confetti by AOA Nail Lacquer on the right. Let's start swatching China Glaze and we'll get back to Cosmic Confetti after this first coat. So notice the amount of glitters that were released on that first coat. It's a lot. Pick Me Up Purple is definitely showing signs of being a full coverage glitter polish right away, and the formula feels a little bit chunky as you'd expect. I also got a few bald spots and had to do some minor dabs here and there towards the end. Cosmic Confetti's formula, on the other hand, felt much smoother, reason being that there's significantly less glitter in this base. It's not as packed as China Glaze, but I'd say that they're actually doing a decent job at scattering. Now at this point, I started getting hints that this polish is more like a hybrid in that you can use it as a topper, but you can also almost achieve full coverage with multiple coats. Moving on to Pick Me Up Purple's second coat, I'd say that it was pretty easy to cover up those streaks and bald areas. I pretty much just swiped the brush across the nail and didn't have to do any more dabbing just because of the dense amount of glitters, which by the way are a mix of small purple glitters while the hollow ones are slightly bigger, which of course help with coverage too. So now that we have our end result here, let's move on to Cosmic Glitter before the side-by-side comparison. This will also be the last coat for this affordable polish, and I can already tell that my nail line is not going anywhere with these two coats. However, you could essentially reach full coverage or the illusion of it with probably 4 coats. And here are my end looks. When it comes to my swatching experience, I'd say that it was slightly equal, with China Glaze being just a tad bit better. So while I appreciate that I had to do no dabbing with AOA and the formula was smoother, the smell of the formula was so bad that I noticed it. China Glaze lacks that bad smell, but the experience wasn't perfect either. I did have to do some slight dabbing, although honestly that doesn't bother me much. A smelly formula just leaves me with the impression that the polish is low quality. So for this round, China Glaze, the more expensive polish, takes the win. I wasn't really sure how to title this category, but both of these polishes contain pretty large holographic elements and are to be worn fully opaque. Cracked Polish's Guided Light is really the only polish in my stash that is most similar to AOA Nail Lacquer's Playdate. They both have a very similar creative execution and final look, with the only difference being the color, which I'm not considering. So let's see what I get for a $13 polish versus a $1.33 one. Let's focus on Guided Light first and then we'll get to Playdate. So here we have a shimmer filled base that is noticeably sheer on the first coat, and it's seasoned with holographic glitters that vary in size. We do have some tiny particles, but also larger ones. Notice how Playdate seems to have a slight pearlescent effect. I'm seeing some micro silver particles alongside holographic hex glitters and also holographic bar glitters. First impression of the formula is that it is thicker than Cracked and way more opaque, which I wasn't expecting. Moving on to Guided Light's second coat, which based on how that first brush stroke laid down, I know that I won't be needing a third coat. Even though it is quite sheer and it feels a lot thinner than Play Date, it doesn't feel watery and it builds up really easily. It fills up those streaks and those bald spots pretty evenly, which gave me this end look. And finalizing this second and last coat for Play Date, aside from the formula, I've had to dip back into the bottle during the first and second coat, so I'm not a huge fan of this small brush. People with shorter nails might not have to dip back, but my longer nails do need more formula than what this brush is willing to provide for me. Now, after swatching both of these back to back, I'll say that my swatching experience was slightly better with cracked polish for two main reasons. First, I didn't have to keep dipping back into the bottle, and second, AOA nail lacquer's plastic stench made a comeback, whereas cracked polish was barely even smellable. Bad polish smells are definitely gonna degrade my experience no matter what I'm doing, so I'm sorry to AOA, even though it did have better coverage and both end results actually look pretty nice, but Guided Light, the $13 polish, is taking the win back to cracked headquarters. Next up, you know I had to see how much flavor a $1 nail seasoning can pack, so toppers is the category here, and the closest match I have to AOA Nail Lacquer's $1.33 polish called Sleaze is Orly and Kelly Marissa's collaboration, Spellbound, which is a $12 polish. Let's turn our attention to Spellbound, which has a mix of hex glitters in different colors, sizes, and also a nice little dusting of micro hollow glitter. Although we do get a nice amount of elements in the brush, the viscosity of the base doesn't really support them in evenly scattering across the nail. Keep in mind that sure, a thinner could help here, but both of these polishes are thinner versions and I didn't want to alter either of them before I made this video. So as expected, I had to push, dab, and drag a lot of elements around because I like to have them look nice and even across the nail. Doing this doesn't really bother me though. I push and dab and drag all the time with the toppers that I like to use over my bare nails, so I knew what this category was bringing. Luckily, it isn't that hard to accommodate them. The base is fluid enough to where with a few little nudges here and there, I can get them to their perfect destination. And with nail seasonings, I don't count in coats, so with this, we'll get our end result. Picking back up with Sleaze, and although it's still a topper, the elements here are just a tad bit different in that the sizes of the elements are a lot more extreme and noticeable. We have some really small hex glitters, some medium ones, and also some very large ones. But we also get holographic bar glitters in contrast to Orly's holographic micro glitter. Now when it comes to the formula though, it's noticeably more fluid than Orly's, which can be a good or bad thing when it comes to the dabs and drags, because a thinner formula can create extra movement while accommodating the elements, which may or may not work in your favor. But overall, as I'm applying this, I'm not feeling any frustration here. It's really not much different from the other seasonings in my collection, although compared to Orly's, the glitter to base ratio is definitely lower. Moving on to comparing Orly, the more expensive option, to AOA, the $1.33 option, while I would love to say that my swatching experience was great with both, I can't not mention for the third time that AOA stinks, but if I didn't have a nose that worked, I would have zero complaints about it. So when it comes to the glitter to base ratio, the viscosity of the base, and even the brush, all of those factors created a good experience for me. Luckily for me though, my nose works, so it is fair for the win to go to Orly since scent did not once come to mind while applying Spellbound. The next category are special effects jelly finishes, and this category has the biggest price gap difference since I'm going to be comparing Mooncat's Forces of Evil, a $15 polish, against LA Colors Broken Hearted, which cost me exactly $1. So let's swatch and compare. Let's see exactly how high the bar is and start off with Mooncat. It's actually been a long while since I last wore this polish, so immediately the formula felt very smooth, which I had forgotten, and I noticed I was getting a nice amount of elements on the nail with each of the brush strokes, while LA Colors' first brush stroke left me wondering if the colors are in this room here with us. The color payoff is sadly close to none. There's also very few elements left over on the nail, so I'm wondering what a second coat will do here. Back to Mooncat, this time to finalize this swatch with a second coat. Notice how the wide style brush is really helping with getting a lot of surface area covered with that amazing vibrant red. Now I have to say, LA Colors formula, it needs work. This feels gummy, like sticky, and I'm wondering if I was just sold a bad product or if this is common for LA Colors, because I don't know who would actually be satisfied with this purchase. The swatching experience for these two were vastly different. Aside from what I mentioned, I had to dip back into the bottle for almost every brush stroke during the LA Colors swatch, and the end result was weird. It just doesn't look good. You may want to mute me now because what I'm about to say is gross, but it looks like I vomited on my nail. Like, what are those chunks? I'm not sure if this polish is actually supposed to be this way. I'm hoping that I just got like a really old product. There are chunks across my nail, and this is not a situation where there's a need for glitter grabber. This just feels wrong. I don't think this is supposed to look this bad. I was also having trouble dipping back into the bottle, and when I checked, I realized that the brush was crooked inside of the cap, but I can't fix it. It's like the entire white plastic piece was just manufactured crooked. So compared to this polish, you can imagine I have nothing negative to say about Mooncat. The swatching experience was so uneventful, like in a good way, that it is of course the clear winner here. TLDL, so are more expensive nail polishes actually better? Well, here's what I learned. Affordable brands can have stinky formula, which I experienced with every single bottle of AOA nail lacquer. However, LA Colors smell wasn't really that bad. Mind you, it was cheaper than the AOA brand. Looking at the overall end results, affordable brands can sometimes equal to a low quality final result, like what we saw with LA Colors Broken Hearted, but I was also really happy with the final results of AOA's Cosmic Confetti and Sleaze. However, base viscosity or quality depends on the brand. I can confidently say that LA Colors base was just plain bad. I know some people prefer thicker formulas, but this goes beyond that. The formula was just actually defective, I think. Now, when it comes to base to special effects ratio, affordable brands can have less special effects than what you get in a more expensive bottles, and they can sometimes come with defects like the crooked brush in LA Colors. So is there a clear winner? Well, I haven't tried all of the affordable brands in the world, and keep in mind that formulas weren't exact dupes either. I think that really depends on our individual expectations, but when it comes to my swatching experience, notice how I crowned all of the expensive polishes as the winners because my nose works, and that just resulted in a better overall experience. However, I would love to know, what has your experience been with affordable versus expensive polish? I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation in the comments section. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching so much. Thank you for watching my video. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you.